We're requesting, the applicant's requesting a continuance of this hearing to a future date. So we're not gonna have any discussion tonight other than to pick a date of when we'll be able to continue this hearing. So-
Correct.
So, a couple weeks, 3 weeks, or 2 weeks?
2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks.
She was, even next week, she said basically Drew Sherman Dillis would have the plans ready by the end of this week, so, next week or maybe the first week in December, one of those.
So first week of December, next week is
The third, or the week of the third, Monday is the third.
Anyone have availability for one night?
I'll have to check.
I'm available on the third.
Third?
I am not available on the third.
I am available on the third, but not the fourth. Yeah, I'm not
Is the,
the.
are those Mondays?
The third is a Monday.
Monday, okay, so.
What about Wednesday the 5th?
How about the 10th?
I'm not available on the tenth.
Okay, how about the week before then?
That's the 26th.
Yeah, the week after Thanksgiving.
Which is this week.
Right.
That's amazing.
So it's a week from today.
The 26th, would that work for the board?
It works for me.
Works for me.
What date?
The
26th?
26th.
Are we sure that they'll be ready
Next
though?
Monday.
Next Monday. Yeah. I think so.
Melissa guaranteed me that if,
Okay.
within the next 2 weeks.
That works for me.
That works, I guess.
So worst case is we give them a date
And
and
they
we have
can't
to
make it,
continue
we'll
it
have
because
to
they can't
continue
make
it
it.
again.
I can do that.
The
I thought we had to
26th.
give 2 weeks' notice for these.
No, not for,
Everybody-
for this, if it's just a public meeting, it's 48 hours for the agenda.
I can do the 26th.
I'll say the same.
At 7
Very
again?
flexible.
At 7 o'clock, and actually Houghton is available that
Right,
night,
do
so
it
we
the
can
whole-
do
so we're doing
Houghton.
Houghton.
Yep. So we just need a motion.
Right, motion to continue the hearing until Monday, the May 26th, 7 p.m. in the Houghton Building.
Second.
Second by Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. good. Motion passes. So we good?
Mhm.
I imagine the site's underwater now.
It's been a real wet
But,
fall.
I have a vernal pool in front of my property,
Yeah.
and it's right up to the edge of my driveway now. It's,
It's wet down there too.
yeah, and I've never seen it this high.
Right.
Your 40B is probably gonna wash away down there, huh? No, never.
On one of the wells, which that's right here.
No, I'm not talking about that one, I'm talking about the one down on Still River. So, but don't you have that, do you still have Autumn
One
Lane?
by Autumn Lane?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's still there. That's not gonna wash away. That's up high.
That's good.
The bottom, yeah, we're not, it isn't in the
Yeah,
bottom,
yeah, right,
so
yeah.
we got plenty of room. The river can, we can make biblical times and
Well,
still be
woman,
okay
you'll see
there.
fine, rise and tide.
If we're building an ark, then I'll get concerned, but until then, I think we're all right.
So if we're all set with that, I mean, this was scheduled 7:10, can we start?
We're fine, yeah,
Fine,
it's
okay, so.
fine.
So this is just a business discussion, it's not a hearing?
It does not, well,
Well,
I
we
guess
didn't-
the board needs to make that determination, so.
Well, we don't have a hearing notice, though, so we're just.
No, but
We'll make a,
you'll need to deem whether or not it's a substantial change. If you do make it, if you do decide it's a substantial change, it would have to go to a
That's right.
hearing, yeah.
so for the record, I guess we'll say Marco Hagan seeks a non-substantial change to come from the further for Craftsman Village at Brigham Farm to relocate one of the drinking wells and provide a waiver to allow a well within 10 feet of the internal property line. Correct?
Yes, and so here, my partner. So what sorry, give you some background, if you guys may recall, that the wells were drilled like 100 years ago in relative terms. I think it was around 2000, 2001, something like that. as
Yeah,
well.
at least.
These four that are back here. So obviously we've been we're using them as part of our plan. We had to drill one, which we drilled over here. We finished these homes, we progressed over here. They were going in to do work. We had actually, tested them in the spring, made sure that everything was fine from a building permit perspective. And it's probably been, 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point. Our well guys were going out there, skillings that deal with the distribution systems. And they're telling us the water, it's like 5 feet, 6 feet high. So they really had a hard time getting out to this well, technically. And it's just because the water is historically high. From our end, he's like, look, we're concerned about it. And, we felt obviously the water may subside, it might be okay, but from a long-term perspective, it's just not a suitable situation. We didn't want the residents to be in a position that if they had a problem, they couldn't be serviced. So we had looked at alternatives for placing another well and not using that one, which we identified a location that was acceptable. We do have 3 wells that are out here. These are all kind of closer to this side, so they were in a couple, just like a couple of feet of water, which they were fine with. But for whatever reason, it really drops off after this. So what we would like to do is make an A&R change, because we have these homes, they're under construction, they're gonna be available in the next, 30 days, 45 days or so. We wanted to essentially do an A&R plan that would put this well, that was gonna service this lot, on to this lot, servicing these homes up front. And then we'll build a new well for this lot, obviously on the lot in close proximity to the distribution. In doing that, we comply with all the regulations in terms of separation to septic system, separation to tanks. I'm gonna say separation to outside property lines. But in here, even though these are all really close to the lot lines, we never requested the waivers because they were on the plan and we just kind of accepted them that they were usable. So even though technically these don't comply, there wasn't a specific waiver that was granted. So we are requesting to have a waiver granted that would allow the well to be within 10 feet of the interior property line. And it's generally consistent with what was here, is the specific request for a waiver. And also requesting with that for the board, if they would sign a new A&R, because we're changing the lot line slightly for it. Before we came to you guys, we met with Conservation Commission to make sure that they were comfortable with it. They have approved it, subject to your board's determination. We also met with the Board of Health, and they have approved it as well, conditioned upon, they will issue a well permit conditioned upon the ZBA approving the waiver, because otherwise they can't.
One quick question. This parcel cannot be broken up at any time, so these lot lines really don't affect the future. In other words, you can't sell off this lot, can you?
No.
So I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, we can't do that, and actually, the reason that, because we haven't conveyed anything over here on these lots, we can move the lines slightly. If we tried to move this line, it would be more complicated, because then technically we'd need approvals from all of these people, which would be a problem.
Right.
So it really is just this little adjustment that they were doing, and they were moving this like a couple of feet because it was, just close to the edge of the building, just to give it a little more relief. Since we've got the buildings in, we've got the as-built,
Yeah.
so just to be safe, they give a little more relief for servicing. So the other boards were comfortable with it in the sense that, it's clearly a better alternative than having a well that may have a problem being surfaced. We had requested that this well is not being officially abandoned, which was accepted by the Board of Health. They're gonna, cap it and lock it, just in case there's an emergency and there is a need for a well. It's there, it's available. It didn't make sense because even to go in and abandon it, we'd have to, dig it up and do work in the
So
middle of
you've
the
done the
wetlands.
testing on that?
We'll have to we have to drill it, you really can't, there's not much testing, we can't do any testing until we get it done. These wells had, so we had tested these in the spring, so that we'd have, because we needed the testing for the permits, I mean, for the building permits, and they were both, the water was fine. And then even in the spring, when, would be a higher groundwater elevation, this fall with all the rain was that much higher, so.
So in the event that for some unforeseen reason this doesn't work, then we gotta go back to the drawing boards anyway, so.
Theoretically, I mean, the well out, we have been,
Sure it'll work.
there's been no problem with the quantity of any of these wells. There's an aquifer that runs along the highway, so we're not worried about that. The quality of well, we presume, is gonna be like the other ones, which is, we do have some treatment that most people are getting, but just for, for high-end staining, typical stuff out here. So it's certainly, it's likely that we'll have the same characteristics of the other wells. So, this well and these wells, they were all generally the same in terms of the quality of the water. And the quantity of the water, when you look at how much we need, I mean, technically, we only need about, 2 gallons a minute to make it work with what the flows are, but we've had plenty of water.
So is it within 10 feet or 50 feet?
It's within 10 feet.
Because we got a telephone log that regarding, it says the Board of Health reviewed the relocation of Rico well at, Craft Village, Town. The board was agreed to allowing the waiver to allow the well within 50 feet of a property line. Is that?
Yeah. Phil said he called you.
Yeah, so their requirement is that it needs to be out 50 feet or greater, right? That's the way he made it sound in the.
Right, that sounds to me,
Yeah.
but you're saying 10 feet, so.
It says, this is the exact plan we had, this is the exact
Yeah, so
conversation. that we
the
had.
well is 10 feet from the property line, he's
Yeah.
just saying the requirement
Yeah,
is that it's
typically-
50,
Typically, it's 50.
but it's
I think that's what
gonna
he said.
be within that 50 feet. Sorry, maybe I just wrote it up.
Okay,
sounding
because
weird.
this was making it sound like, they're saying, yeah, you can change well as long as it's 50 feet.
As long as it's
And I'm
50
like,
feet,
well, that's
right.
not.
That's on 50 feet, yeah.
Then it can't
No,
be
50 is
50.
the standard, yeah, and that's what, that's what we were seeking relief from.
And then we have Rebecca Longbell, and she's with where?
Conservation.
Conservation.
So they're the ones who said they're okay.
Yeah, I have a copy of their full memo if you have it too. That's good. Yeah, so we maintain, we're staying outside the 25-foot. The area that we're putting in, it's already disturbed,
Right.
the silt fence runs along here. So this is just gonna be, it's gonna be lawn area.
Yeah.
So at this point, there was no additional disturbance for it. And we put together some details. The main thing that they wanted, or the Board of Health said, I'm not sure if she said it or the Board of Health, just for emergency purposes, they wouldn't want it to be used for irrigation, and we agreed to that, so.
Where is the well for this lot?
That's this one. So this property line technically goes like this. And it comes out here and around here.
But that's the one you said is not.
This is the one that we're having problems with. So this well here, which was.
Oh, you're
gonna be
servicing
servicing
that so
these.
that that well is inside of this lot?
Right,
Okay.
exactly. We're requesting the revised A and R
Mhm.
for that stand.
So we still have one well for one every lot?
Oh, yeah, yeah, we still need that, absolutely. So that is, I think that was it.
So is it,
Yeah, so we would be, specifically, we'd be requesting the board to issue a waiver to section 4.1.1 of the Bolton Well Regulation to allow for the construction of a well within 10 feet. And I mean, in the memo, we talk about it from the interior lot lines as compared, it's the same thing, going forward, I guess, but, we're not close to, wells or anything else that could be happening on the exterior of the property. So it is an interior lot line, which is consistent with what we had, so.
so do we need to comment or make any comment on the fact that the other existing well is already within 10 feet?
I think if we
I
issue.
mean, especially since you're redrawing the line.
I think that's why I was, what we did before, and which, I don't even know why, because I think I wrote it, we did a waiver of regulations for this well, The only waiver was, the offset to the driveway. But the wording says specifically for lot 4. So, I think by issuing this well, it covers all the wells in case there's any issue in the future. That's how I look at it. I don't know how the board would look at it. The board, what we put in the decision, since the wells were already installed and as the plans were, that basically we said, the plan, it's approved, it's approved, with these waivers. I think there's even some catch-all wording that, if other waivers are needed, for the plan to be in compliance, then they can be deemed granted. So you could argue that it was inherently in there, but, we didn't specifically talk about it. There isn't a waiver in there.
I
So-
agree with that, I'm just saying, because you're redrawing that line, it now becomes, that is within 10 feet.
Yeah, this one was within 10 feet, so they
But
were all.
but that one wasn't before,
This
right?
one wasn't, right. So
Right
that's
now
what,
it is.
I didn't reference, like we did on the other one, of a well, particularly for this lot, for that.
It's
reason,
an
so yes.
existing, but now it's becoming within 10 because of the way you're
Yeah,
redrawing it.
this one is now,
And then
because
this
of
is a
this,
new
and this
one
one
within
that we're
10.
proposing, right.
So what you're asking is, do we need to give a
I
waiver
just
for
didn't know
both,
whether we did
or
kind of.
just give a waiver in general?
I
Well,
would,
it's
I think.
redrawing the line, and we know that by redrawing it, it's gonna be within 10, so we should at least comment on it.
Yeah.
No, we have to make a determination whether substantial change or non-substantial change, right?
Right, but to the extent that if, look at the master law, what's a substantial, generally, it's talking about size in an example, so increase of more than 10% height of buildings, increase of more than 10% of the number of housing units proposed, a reduction similarly in excess of those change in building types, change from, so there's certainly not this type of
No,
component built into their
this is
examples.
more
of
health
what-
issue as far as I'm concerned. and-
Yeah, the Conservation Commission, they
Right.
considered it a field change as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
And they
it's
said
all
they
one
wanna-
parcel, it's not gonna be reconfigured in any event.
Right.
And they want me to have safe access to the well. So
That's what I
so
think,
really need
long
that,
term,
yeah.
we could have, we could have found a way all we're gonna do is sink a pump out there, the wiring is already in and done. So, it isn't something that, we had a huge desire to, probably burn $10,000 on. But, if there was a problem with it, people would be in a situation, theoretically, they could come back to us if we were aware of it, so, we're aware of a problem, we don't want to perpetuate a problem, so, and given the layout, given the orientation, this is, it's really only we looked here, we looked over here, originally we were gonna look over here where we could be, on this property, but there's a septic system over here, and just the location of it in relation to the roadway and grading and plowing and stuff, it just didn't seem to make sense, and we would have needed a waiver there anyways, so, because we've got a septic here and septic here, so it really limited what we had available, for
And you
space.
say neither of these have been sold yet?
We haven't conveyed out any, we're building them now, we've got, pretty much everything is sold. We've got one house that a couple that was moving from the west coast had to cancel for some health reasons that's available, otherwise, everything is sold.
They're
So,
pre-sold, but they're not, nothing's conveyed.
we haven't conveyed, correct. So we were literally, doing the connections, this is like in the last.
Just for
3 or 4
information
weeks.
purposes, do you need to then tell people who've already pre-sold that their lot line has changed?
No, because essentially, their master deed, their condominium hasn't been recorded yet. So when it's recorded, it's on there.
So I was just wondering.
Yeah, and there's no substantive change. If we were doing, and I don't, it's not, required, by law, because it isn't on record, and they'll have the opportunity to see it all prior to it going on record. If there was some kind of a substantive change that that we generally felt was impacting them,
Yeah.
I'd probably tell them, but I don't, they just wouldn't understand it, to be honest with you. Well, it's hard enough for us to understand, we do it for a living, so, so that would just confuse them, but ultimately they'd say, so do we have water?
Yes.
Say, yes.
Have a good well?
Is it coming from the same place? Yeah,
Reliable.
generally, it's all coming from the same place. Septic? septic is aces, so, but otherwise, I think we just, spin around a lot and get some inexperienced attorneys just insane trying to understand it, so. And there really isn't any substantive change. I mean, in the lot sizes, because we have, minimum lot sizes for nitrogen loading and that kind of stuff, they changed from, 3.46 went to 3.47, and I think 304 went to 303. So there really isn't any real impact on it to people.
So to Andy's point on what you have there proposed as a waiver, is there any other language change on there, given the lot line? So that if we, whoever we vote to say whether it's substantial or not, then we'll have to, vote to grant the waiver, right? And so we want to make sure the language is. So is
Yeah, I mean, I
how
know
it's
that
proposed?
regulation is
I would
correct.
assume if you keep it like this, then it would account for both.
That's what I want to just be sure, that.
So,
Mark, the bylaw says you cannot have a well within 50 feet?
the local offset regulation is 50, I can confirm that.
So how about the other wells, then, since we're doing everything, should we include all of them?
That's what we're
I
saying,
take it on
yeah,
that then?
yeah, that we'll just do it as a waiver, not lot related, so that everything is protected going forward. So that's what I was just looking for, building footprint, drilled well, public way, vegetation. Yeah, leaching facility, 100 feet, cesspool, septic tank.
What does the original waiver state?
There wasn't one granted. That's why it was, because they were drilled and we just worked around it. The only waiver that we had in our comprehensive permit related to this, and it was requesting an offset to the private driveway of less than 50 feet, because we met everything else, yeah.
Over there, and that's why.
Gas line,
It
gas
couldn't
lines
be,
here.
couldn't be too.
So is that?
Oh, yeah, I think it was gas
I think it was
lines,
the
yeah.
gas lines.
Yeah, I think it was both, you're right,
Yeah.
yep.
Is that one specific to that well then, instead of the whole?
It is,
It is,
and I don't
because-
know why I did it, I think it's because the only well that we were talking about,
Right.
because normally,
Well, because it was so close to this gas line, and we didn't
Right.
want it to, that's what I
Right.
recall from back then.
well, and because I think it either referenced something of utility lines, or I forget what it did. But I'm looking for the,
Well, and at one point, I think, because there's really not gonna be a lot of stuff built back here, right? I mean.
nothing's being built back
Right,
here.
nothing would be there, and we didn't really, because if someone, there was gonna be a soccer field or whatever,
Way in the back,
Right.
and originally, this was it was gonna be a community water supply, so it was all one parcel.
Right.
So it wasn't subdivided then when we looked at it, so, like I said, I think the way that the permit is written was okay.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt to be clearer, going forward, is the way that I look at it, and obviously, so for us, this is a change, I don't think it's a substantial change, and, but I'm biased, so.
Reasonably biased.
I'm reasonably biased, yes,
Right.
yes.
So if we were to sign something, did you have something you want us to sign? Or do
Well, we have an A&R plan that I
Okay,
would
so
like you to
okay.
sign, which makes this modification of going, incorporating the blue stuff.
And that's
So we-
totally different than this, right?
No, yeah, it's upside down. I'm not gonna open the whole page, yeah. You want just write on it, it's angled, I'll roll it for you, let's get a good pen, yeah.
Trust me, Craftsman LLC.
Too funny, but hey, we can do that, that's right. So that plan is related to that. I just, had put the wording in here, and actually, as I'm reading it, I think it would be, requesting the board to, whether you want to mention the 50, or within or whether we want to just put like a, I say within 10 feet, it would probably be better to write, no closer than 5 feet to, to the property line, because I don't know how you write a waiver to be within 10 feet, so. So I think if the board made a motion to issue a waiver to section 4.1.1 of the Bolton well regulations, allowing the construction of a well within 5 feet of a property line,
So why wouldn't it be 10 feet of the property line?
Well, I'm saying, we're at about 10 feet, I think it's saying,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say within, or would you say within, or 5 feet?
Well, if it's within 5, it's within 10.
Mhm.
Right, yeah.
So, how about 9 feet?
Yeah, I think we're like right at 10, that's why
Okay.
I'm thinking, so if we put 5, and, I mean, even in your statement, you can say that it was, taken, into consideration that this is an interior lot line that was created in conjunction with the property. Not that, waivers from one property go on to another one, but if it ever came up, that certainly is, part of the reason that, that it may be an easier decision, so.
If we
But
said
that's up
less
to you
than
guys.
50 feet, if we just said less than 50 feet, instead of within a certain amount.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna, yeah, that's why
Yeah,
I
'cause
said
that's what,
within, yeah.
that's what really
Yeah,
it
right.
is.
It's a waiver
Because
to
that-
allow a
because
well
that- right, 'cause that-
within
right,
50,
'cause then
yeah,
we're
well,
pinning
less
it
than
down to
50.
I think that's how,
Right.
that's how they wrote it here.
That's probably, I think that's likely what Bill
Yeah.
was trying to get at,
Yeah.
that you're allowing for a well to be drilled.
Less
than-
with-
less
with
than
a-
Agreeable
with
to
a less
allow a
than
waiver
50 foot.
to allow a well within 50 feet of a property line.
Less than
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right, so that makes more sense.
Okay.
10. Mhm. So first, determination that that's proposed change is insubstantial.
May I make a recommendation?
All right, we'll call it, yeah, sure.
That I would propose that the changes requested are insubstantial.
Okay. So, second?
Second?
Okay, Kay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Mhm. Okay, so that piece is confirmed. Right, so we were gonna say, to issue a waiver to section 4.1.1 of the Bolton Well regulation to construct a well within 50 feet?
Yeah.
yeah.
Within 50 feet of
Or
the
not,
internal.
or less than 50 feet? Rather than saying within,
Oh,
because
but-
with,
So less
Within
than.
less than 50 feet.
let's say less than 50 feet.
So instead of within, say less than
Yeah.
50 feet from an internal property line.
Mhm.
And that works.
That works for me.
Yeah, right.
Works for me.
That work for you for the, with the wording and?
Yep.
Okay. So I would make a motion to grant a waiver to section 4.1.1 of the Bolton Well regulation to construct the well less than 50 feet of an internal property line.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you also have to acknowledge that the change in the property lines themselves are not substantial? I'm just asking for, they're actually changing a property line there,
There's two,
so.
yeah, I mean, if you could say that the changes of, drilling a new well as well as the.
Yeah, I mean, we're
shifting
agreeing on the
property
well,
line,
but
it's not-
you also got to change that it's changing the property line of lot.
I'll make a
Motion to amend.
motion to amend that basically the change of the internal lot lines to accommodate the well position are insubstantial.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks.
That makes sense.
Just want to be specific.
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Better
That's
not
all.
have to have that.
Mhm.
So, that is what is here, it's really this change. This one. Slide it back.
Yeah, right, that's exactly, they're not gonna,
All right, so we got line here, we're
he
doing
used to be a car
switcheroo.
dealer, he used to be a car dealer at Mohegan Sun.
Just gonna come in and grab the pens for the
Yeah,
Mylar.
Get the magic pen that won't work.
Yeah, and then looping it out, and then you just get this little dog leg here, and that's it.
It's a dog leg, okay. Yeah.
That's all.
And where exactly did this lot lose space? No, it gained space over there. Where does it lose space?
This one didn't. This one went from
An increase.
346 to 347.
The gain space.
So just that down there made this difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only
I thought you
difference, yeah.
said there was something about ready to use.
Yeah, and she may or may not have done it. We have the as-built, so we know, we knew we were gonna be close, so we had pinned it. But I told her to look at it, and if she felt that she needed space, then to add it, I didn't think that the board would have a problem if this moved a foot. So she evaluated it, and it doesn't really look like it doesn't look like it changed, so, they have,
Okay, I thought there
we
was
have all
some
these
additional.
located.
I thought you
That was,
said something else in
I
there.
had talked with her about it, and I just got the plans, the final plan, 20 minutes ago. So, it doesn't look like she ended up having to
So
modify it.
this one lost, just 304 to 303, right?
Right.
This one stayed.
It's all because of this.
It's all
That's
because of
it.
that,
That's
right?
the only change, yeah.
Do we have a Mylar on this?
Yep. I have, it's on the bottom.
So I'll need 2 paper copies as well.
Okay.
One
I've got
for
3.
my office and one for assessors.
Ooh, these are fancy ones, so.
So you need 2 papers to be signed?
Yes, please, along with the Mylar, obviously.
Get this one out of here. So 1, 2, 3.
The date, today's date, 11/19?
Yep.
Is the date of endorsement the same, or it doesn't matter?
It should be, well.
What's that date of endorsement date?
It's really endorsement, because in A and R, you don't really approve, you endorse, so I would just copy that.
You just sign underneath it?
Yeah, that's.
Practices start next week.
At the same time?
Actually, I went to
Yeah.
watch the captain's practice.
This one as well. So she wants 2.
You just do 2 in JV University.
Yeah, and Michelle has too.
This is Sunbrook Pond, is that, it's under water there, is that what you're saying? Just-
Yeah.
Oh,
You get
it's
big
another
freshman
small
class
building
early coming
that's
in this
proposed over on the
Yeah.
other side of town.
I think, yeah, next year's the big,
That is.
that's 3 years on each hot
Surrounded by wetlands?
Sign 2?
Completely within the
Sign
buffer.
Everything is
Sign
in the
2
buffer?
and sign 1.
Yeah.
The 1 Mylar and then 2 paper.
Multiple plans.
Oop, bummer.
Rolling in cash.
They're all brand new, they should work.
The Mylar's missing.
Okay.
Did you sign up for that?
Yeah.
Oh.
Squash the Mylar.
And we'll get you the recording info when it goes on.
Thank you.
Probably in the next couple of weeks we'll put it on when they're done. I can't believe it's Thanksgiving. How did that happen?
Get out of here.
I gotta see how you have that big righty hook, you know?
Here, you I don't know if the word the record will you get that?
Can we still do stuff?
Mhm.
To
Yeah,
violation?
yeah, mhm, yeah.
Just wondering.
Yeah, mhm. Yeah, because that, otherwise we stuck this.
I know.
We wouldn't have
I
had
know,
a
people
quorum,
would
because there would be
retire.
one person left on it, and you need, so. You just have to be involved in, the communications with that, Yep.
Yeah, those regulations getting stricter. I have another town, and they've got someone Skyping in from Florida and all this stuff, because they were afraid they weren't gonna have enough members, and so.
His point is like, none of these people are involved in, say, the project, so they're like, can we rate,
I don't think I had children when they built those wells, so. And one's in college now, so.
Thank you.
I don't think you had gray hair back then.
No, I think I had those.
No, you didn't.
I did
He
have
was
those.
born with
I was born with gray.
He was born a wise, old soul, but he never had a gray hair. Freshman, I know it.
Well, you wanna keep these two,
I
right?
do.
All right, you want
This one.
it folded, or?
It doesn't matter. You can just hand it over.
Is there a third one in there? There's 4. We'll see. We'll leave you two. Do you want another?
I don't know, I'll just end up copying
Yeah, those are your, the signed ones you guys are keeping in the Mylar, I'll put inside, so it doesn't get
Dirty, smudged.
wet and wet. Ow, that's it, I'm blessed, united, that's it. I am a
Thank you
knight.
very much.
Yes, thank you very much, we appreciate it. We're
Good
hoping,
Thanksgiving.
yes, probably by next summer we'll be done. So we've got the first 4 affordables are in, and then the next 4 in these 2 phases, so. Actually, I
Water
watered a lot of
today.
it. Today, tomorrow.
Today.
Oh, I don't know.
We're like 10 people.
Yeah. So we've got the next 4 we'll be working on, so we've been doing it as they're located, so.
Sweet.
Motion to adjourn?
All right, motion to adjourn? Motion
I move
to,
to adjourn.
all right, second?
Second.
All right, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion to adjourn passes. 7:40, 7:40, 35.
7:41.
Thank you.